All right, but we ready?
Yeah, yeah.
Fine, Reese. We finally ready to go.
Yeah, I think so. I know so. Let's go.
My God don't play about me. My God don't play about me.
My name Harry Todd, man. I'm a child of the King. I serve the Lord with all my might. I'm a community leader. I'm also a hip-hop rapper, a positive rapper, and a CEO of Truth Hurts Entertainment. I'm not a Christian rapper. I'm a rapper that happens to be a Christian. Just a person trying to do right by God and trying to help others into the kingdom. I grew up in West Palm Beach, Florida, Tamarind Avenue, 6th Street in Tamarind to be exact. My grandmother owned like a bunch of apartments down there, a real prominent family. But of course, after the 80s, it turned into like the hood, you know what I'm saying? Especially after the crack era. I was born in Chicago, my brothers were born in Illinois, but my family originally from West Palm Beach, Florida. How it was out there, man, I say, you know, me growing up in the crack era in the 80s, it was rough, man. You know, my mom eventually wound up on crack cocaine. You know, I watched her in some dark situations and some dark people around. You know, us as kids, you know, we used to come out at night, you know, getting ready to go to school or getting ready for school. And there used to be like a bunch of, you know, drug addicts around, you know, sitting around in the huddle smoking. Or I might come out, you know, I hope this ain't too explicit, but I used to come out and cover my mom up, you know, stuff like that. And my mom was a great woman, you know, it's just, you know, we all fall short, you know, even myself fell into the cocaine when I turned like 16. I ended up smoking bunk and stuff like that, following Trick Daddy, right? So, so no, I understand now, but growing up in a crack house with no lights, no water, my grandmother, she owned like half of a city block, 4 apartment buildings, and a lot of properties. She was real prominent back in the days and stuff. And she was just trying to make sure we got somewhere we could call home. But we kind of turned it into, as we grew up, we became young, hardened criminals, you know what I mean? A lot of stuff happened to us, from being bullied to, you know, just the streets. When we step out the door, the streets kind of was raising us. So we came from good kids to young, hardened criminals, pretty much, you know? As a young man, I say my grandmother, I seen her hard work, you know, she was by herself and she ran all these apartments. She'll come out and rake the yard, you know, and take care and tend to all these tenants and stuff. She was a strong woman, so I say her, that's what gave me something to look at least. But the bigger influence was the streets, you know. The streets, they right out there as soon as you step out the door, you know, the drugs, you know, death, you know what I'm saying? So we seen a lot of that stuff, and that stuff started molding us and influencing us, and that's eventually where we were headed, you know. So that was my biggest influence, the streets, I'll say. You know, the big dope boys who throw the block parties on 6th Street, you know, Allen and all them guys, a lot of youngsters don't know. We used to block off the whole street in the block, and Allen and the big dope boys used to, you know, put barricades up with big speakers. Jam Pony might come out there, stuff like that. Jam Pony Express is a popular thing down in Florida and Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Slick Vic, Lock Kujak. They kind of, they like DJs, but they play other people's music and they'll cut the vocals out and say what they want to say. So if you're singing, you know, a song, they might say, "Woo, Lord, rock it on," and cut the pieces back on, you know. So they were real popular in South Florida, you know, stuff like that. Shout out to JPE. Everything that happened to me, man, when I was a kid, you know, being abused, being, you know, neglected, and I was the ugly duckling, you know what I mean, out of me and my brothers. So that didn't let me dream, you know. I was always damaged. I always had a low self-esteem, you know what I mean, coming up. We looked different from the other kids in the neighborhood. We had like curly hair and, you know, because my dad's from Jamaica, you're coolie, man. We just felt out of place, you know what I mean? We knew we were good dudes, you know, stuff like that, but I couldn't dream. I didn't see anything, you know what I mean? I didn't see no future. Rapping though, when I was 12 years old, you know, I met Death Row Records, I met Chris Cross, they heard my music, stuff like that. But yeah, I'd say during my incarceration, when I first went in. So on the streets, it became so dark that I started losing my mind from all the beefing, you know, the street life and stuff like that. The drug use, of course, since I was like probably 12 years old. So the hard drugs and the money life and the pressure, I started losing my mind and stuff, you know, kind of schizophrenic and PTSD, I guess you could call it. I'd say when I was incarcerated, the stuff my grandma used to tell me started kicking in, you know. Your friends ain't nothing, you know. They make your friends, you know, education, stuff like that. So when I got into the federal prison system, I immediately went to go get my GED and looking for God. I got 22 years, man, so I got to try to figure out, you know, what am I trying to be? You know what I mean? What am I trying to do? of course, we ain't gonna succumb to the things that go on in prison. I'm trying to come out better than I did, and keep hope. So I'd say a year in, when I went to prison, something clicked in education clicked in my mind. All the things my dad, all the visions of my dad. He was a hard worker, tried to start a restaurant business. My grandmother tried to establish this big $1 million empire of buildings and properties. And that stuff started kicking in because we lost it all, and all that stuff, all the hurt. And that's when I knew something had to change, When I look back, I believe what God was trying to show me is that I'm a leader. I believe he was trying to show me that I can do better and that he loves me, and that's something I ain't never know. I didn't believe in God. I talked bad about God. My mom asked me about God one time and Jesus. I copped the 45, you know what I'm saying? And said, "Mom, this Jesus right here." She said, "Why, no, something wrong with you now?" When I look back, I think God's been trying to show me something and seen something inside of me the whole time, and it was just a matter of getting with God and submitting to make those things come to fruition. I started leaning not onto my own understanding, but leaning on God's understanding. That's what the scripture bears out. It says, lean not unto your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him. So I started to acknowledge him and gather, let him download understanding, and then those things started to fade away, So faith started molding me. It started showing me how to be a man, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Stuff that the streets ain't showed me. They told me how to be a man is to be violent or, be promiscuous, stuff like that. So when I got with God, first you got to come as a little child, basically. So once I humbled myself at his feet, then he started to show me how to be a man, you know what I mean? And show me how to walk right, you know what I mean? And, believe in myself. So my faith is it's gonna keep going, man. You take me as far as I can go, man. All the way to eternal life. Yeah. The hardest thing I had to overcome, I'd say, being honest with myself. And that's what I find a lot of us are not honest with ourselves, Honesty is the foundation of change. That's what I've learned as I journeyed, along. I had to be honest with myself about what I was doing in my community. I had to be honest about myself, about the things that happened to me and who I was, you know what I mean? My criminal lifestyle. There's many things that I had to be honest about, And then once I started taking responsibility of those things, that's when things started to move a little better, and that's my faith, you know what I mean? How did I keep going when things felt impossible? Faith. Yeah, faith. Family. My son's picture on the wall. When I was in prison, I blew my son's picture up when he was 2 years old and put it on my prison cell wall, and that kept me going. That kept me growing and trying to be a father, go take parenting, go get some education, stuff like that. Stay focused, stay positive, Yeah, that's what kept me going. God and my family, yeah, and hurt. Past hurt, yeah. Was there ever a time that I questioned my faith and what brought me back to it? I never questioned my faith. Once he showed me he was real, I'm like a go hard or go home type of guy, you know what I mean? I went hard in the streets, you know what I'm saying? So I never questioned that. Before I went to prison, God showed me he was real. I'm a guy who, like Paul out of the Bible, I was always talking about God ain't real, but this God right here, you know what I'm saying? But one night when I was losing it and I was real dark and depressed and like real evil, I looked up in the sky. I hadn't smiled or nothing for like months. That's how dark and depressed I was. So one day I looked up at the sky and he basically downloaded to me that he's real when I looked up at the moon. I never believed in God in my life. Once that happened, I knew he was real and I never questioned it. Now, the growing process, the disobedience, we ain't perfect yet, you know what I mean? We're working on it. But me knowing he real and me following him, yeah, I ain't never questioned that. What was the first step that I took to turn my life around? I'd say education, getting my GED and soul searching, trying to find God. I didn't know Jesus at the time, I was into Islam, I was trying to find my culture because my family is American Indian, so I was in the Indian religion with it. We're trying to figure, is that my, where I'm supposed to be? Then I went to Islam, you know what I mean? Is this where I'm supposed to be? And I was in Nation Islam and all that. Then I went to Rastafari because my dad from Jamaica, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure that. But that was the first step, trying to find God and starting to get an education. In there, you got some guys in there who are already may have been in there and they're getting the education, you know what I mean? They've been in there a minute, they're growing, they're becoming better. You got the bad element too, of course, but you got some good guys and stand-up guys in there, and they mentor, they help, you know what I'm saying? So even the correction officers and the teachers in there, all this stuff is available in there. So, matter of fact, they make you go to school when you're in there. So yeah, you got to go to school and you got to work in prison. So don't think you're going to watch football all day. You'll sleep. In federal prison, you got to work, brother. How did my perspective on success and purpose change? It started initially soon as I went in, like 2004. But of course, you got a bad element, and you got to hold it down in there too, right? When stuff happens, you fall in fall in line with certain things, certain negative aspects. So because you got a lot of predators in there, so you got to be tough, and me, I'm young, so it was kind of like, it was up and down. So, I'm always looking at success, but now here go this right here, this happened, you know what I'm saying? So I'd say soon as I went in, but it really kicked in like around 2007. It was a big riot. I won't say where it's at because I don't want to, put too much out there. But it was a big riot. It was real bad. It was on CNN. There was like 10 of us playing basketball on outside, and a lot of gang members. They were pulling their knives out the ground, and they were trying to stab a certain type of people. You know what I mean? On site. So when that happened, and I almost got caught up. Right then I knew fully that I had to change everything, the people, places, and things, change my mindset of how I think about how I gotta defend myself, or I gotta move first, you know what I mean? When it comes to violence and things like that. I think then after that incident, because it could have turned out bad for me, even though it turned out bad for the other person or the other people, that woke me up, that woke me up. That made me appreciate things better, because anything could happen to anybody in there. And that was a turning point, and that changed my perspective. Like I said, I grew up high crime, you know what I mean? All that stuff was building a record of me where the police really wanted me off the street by 20 years old. Multiple sales of cocaine, burglaries, car theft, stuff like that. Nothing too violent and nothing like that. So eventually, me and my girl, we got into an argument. And it was real heated, and at that time was the time where I was kind of tripping and loopy and stuff, and real dark, people trying to kill me every night, bullets flying by my ears, stuff. So I was messed up in the head a little bit, and young, so you know what I'm saying, not healed, you know what I mean? So one night, me and my girl got in an argument or something, and something happened. I won't disclose too much of it. It was a domestic dispute, you know what I mean? And my girl know how to fight too now, So what happened was I leaned toward what I know, which is, guns, you know what I'm saying? And my intentions weren't to kill her or nothing, but at the time, I didn't know it was kidnapping. I moved her from one apartment to the next. I went and got her and brought her back home, just wanted to talk. I thought, what I thought I would. I just want to talk, man. So she moved with me, at gunpoint. So anyway, make a long story short, the police bust in, beat me up pretty good. They wanted to kill me and stuff like that. I had already surrendered and put the gun and, got down. But they still, brutalized me and stuff like that. Right after that, they dragged me outside, threw me in the car. Oh, we got the gun, y'all. And you know what happened after that, right? So after that, I bonded out. I don't know if I go to jail for this, but I was looking for some people. I don't like to get brutalized. So make a long story short, my mind, I was messed up in the head, man. Something was wrong with me. Anyway, it was a state case. So I don't know if I want to get too much into detail. It was a state case. I'm like, oh yeah, that's gonna get dropped. It's just a gun possession, you know what I mean? My homies just got gun possession. They got 18 months, 5 years. At the most, I'm gonna get 5 years. I done already did 5 years on and off. So make a long story short, the gun charge got picked up, and the whole time, some people who were involved in this, I won't disclose them, who called the police, and they were relatives too, and certain people. They were going to the state attorney building, and they were testifying on me, and I didn't know it until trial. Next thing you know, I bond out on that case, and I'm out on the streets and stuff. I'm back to it, shootouts, all type of stuff. Still tripping. I ain't learned nothing. Getting ready to catch another charge. You know what I mean? I'm back to the guns. I'm on supervised release and I'm going in there and one day I felt like something was wrong. And then God already told me something getting ready to change. Like I told you when I looked up at the moon, it's like your life getting ready to change, but I'm real. So what I'm saying? But I felt something was wrong. And ATF, I was hiding in the bushes. I was checking in out on supervised release down at the courthouse, and I was hiding in the bushes because I just felt like something was up. And sure enough, as soon as I stepped out of the bushes after hiding for like an hour, ATF swarmed me. Boom! Like I was just El Chapio, tasers, guns, everything. Slammed me, tried to break my leg. My kid's mom at the time, she trying to pull me out the car, the one who with the domestic dispute. No, no! Trying to pull me out the car and stuff, and they just stuffed me in the car and took me to the feds. They expedited me because I was going to trial regardless. I was going to trial with the state case. I was going to trial regardless. But I had already done told on myself. I didn't know that. You know what I mean? I had already told them that was my dad's gun. I found it in the thing, but I'm still going to trial. That shows that I was delusional. So going to trial, most people know you can't beat the feds. You be lucky if you beat the feds. They already got you, if they get you. So I'm going to court, the federal building or whatever. Federal court, I'm delusional. I don't want to talk about too many things and put my family out there, but I believe my family had something to do with getting me off the street versus me dying like the rest of everybody. So I was stuck between two worlds. I'm locked up. I'm going to get ready. I don't know if it's real. Everything is. I'm delusional. I don't know if this is real courtroom. I thought the courtroom was actors at one time. I didn't even think the court was real. That's how crazy and messed up I was. So I thought it was like fake, something my family, who in some hierarchies of things, kind of put to get me straightened out or something. And everything was just, I ain't know what was real and what was fake. And I won't disclose too much about that. But quickly they expedited my case. They see I'm going to trial, public defender. I can't afford no lawyer. I ain't putting too much money up because last 6 months anyway. So they shot me on through there, guilty, boom. Officer get on the stand, the ones that beat me up, lying, saying that I dove for the gun. All kind of lies. They started lying in the courtroom. Made me look bad. So how they got this to a federal case, my indictment was like the gun travel interstate commerce. I ain't never heard of that. So the gun was manufactured in Massachusetts. I never heard of this before. So they're like, oh, the gun was manufactured in Massachusetts. That's how we indicting you. You know what I mean? The arrest is felon with a firearm. But on top of that, the enhancement is you ain't supposed to, it's like when you ain't supposed to take cigarettes from another state and bring them in this state. Same thing with the guns, I guess. Unless you register it, I don't know, man. I was just a gangster. I just shoot them. So they, interstate commerce. That was when all these federal charges started coming out. Felon with a firearm. I knew I was gonna have that. Enhancements. Now they put one label on me. They went back in my past, everything that I did time for already. They said, oh, he's a serious drug dealer, and serious drug charges. Sales of cocaine. I'm talking about like $20 sales and stuff. They call that serious. It was big labels on these things. Serious drugs and stuff like that, and a burglary. Oh, he's a violent career criminal. Of course, they knew that, that's what we was doing. They know how the streets of Tamron is, you know what I mean? They knew what we had, how our lifestyle was. They've been watching us taking pictures for years. But now I'm a armed career criminal. I don't know, I seem kind of bitter. I ain't bitter. But anyway, they put that label on my forehead saying I'm an armed career criminal. And it just bring a lot of emotion out of me, concerning these things because it wasn't right. Or was it? It saved my life, you know what I mean? While I was in, all my friends got killed, all my enemies got killed, hundreds of people, you know what I'm saying, on the same blocks. So they put all these labels, they enhanced me. I went from 5 years to 5 to 10 years to it's like a stepping ladder of guidelines that the federal government uses. I ended up way on the 6th level. They got this point system and they put me way up on the last to 327 months in federal prison. So I couldn't add. I was like 327 months. They put it in months so you don't understand how many years that is. So at sentencing, they sentenced me to 262 months in federal prison. Yeah. And that was 22 years at 23 years old, 24 years old, 2004. I got out in 2018. So when I went in, because I went to trial, that left a door open for me to fight my case. A lot of people don't know when you plea out, you only might have a 2255 or 2241. You can file. So I went in there and learned law. You know, me and my guys, we sit in the law library and look up all case law to try to get out of here. And most of them out right now who had life and all type of stuff. I learned law. I started fighting my case, paying, you know, some high profile guys in there, paralegals and stuff, who are incarcerated. And they were pretty good. They spent all their time in the law library. So they filed some stuff for me. I'm like, you know, and I had some guys on the street. Shout out to Richard Alterhouse, my buddy from the streets who knew me before, you know, a good activist in our neighborhood too. Eventually fighting my case, filing all these motions until my courts got tired of all these motions coming in. So eventually they said, oh, we had one. Something changed in 2006, 2005. There was a case called Booker Fan. So when that changed, it was about where they can't sentence you above the advisory or something like that with the guidelines. They say they went past the advisory or what they advised or they got something like that. I don't know the lingo no more. But so they had to vacate my sentence and remand me for resentencing. So they remanded me and they took my 262 months back and resentenced me in 2006 to 200 months. So that's like a 5-year difference. So that's why you can see me now. I'm sitting right here. I got that law library and in the HVAC book, air conditioning, refrigeration. I went to college book. I went to college for business. What else? Electrical systems. I had books this thick stacked all in the room. I started to go to theological college because I was, you know, once I became Christian, I was already preaching in there and mentoring to my uncle. I got my uncle to send me Greek and Hebrew books. I just don't want to believe what the scriptures say. I want to break down every word. I got the big books laying all over, you know? So I'm just studying, and just to get the truth for everything. And just to get the heck out of here, man. And to be a success when I hit the streets, basically. My grandma lived in me. When my grandma died, you know, I took on all that, you know what I mean? And I say, look what we did. She tried to build this and we destroyed it. You know, say your ancestors, you know, you take on that spirit, you know, it might be one in the family, you know what I mean? It might be a couple of us, you know what I'm saying? But you take on that energy that they had, and that's that energy I had time to think, so I took on that energy.
Yeah.
And with God, is the sky the limit. I knew that I was gonna be successful coming out of there, and I was doing big shows in there too. Brought DJ Khaled up to the gates. The warden wouldn't let him in. So what I'm saying is we was in there with some high profile guys. Like I've been locked up with 50 Cent uncle. 50 Cent used to pull up in the Ferraris and stuff. Rajon Rondo, all type. You know, they family members is in this federal. BB King grandson. All of us are in there, you know, doing shows, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. So everything, I knew I was gonna be successful, regardless, whether it's the music, it's just the drive. You build a certain drive and resilience, I guess, and momentum. Yeah, and you don't stop, man. You keep going. Sky's the limit, especially with the Lord. How did my love for music come about? I say my father, he was a DJ at one point, like, you know, what do you call it? DJing parties and stuff like that. He had a big sound system. You know, my dad from Jamaica, you know how the Jamaican clubs be? He got the big speakers in the corner. It's the 80s and stuff like that. Big speakers in the corner, mixing board. He done built the whole wall is a big sound system. All his records, his vinyls. If he have a lady friend over, he used to make me and my brothers dance like we Michael Jackson and stuff, you know what I mean? He kind of inculcated kind of music in us, and that stuck with me, the rhythm, you know, the vibration. He wasn't a rapper, you know, but he used to, you know, talk a little stuff and stuff like that. Eventually we got on his equipment. He bought a few mics and stands and stuff. And, you know, me and my brothers and my cousins, we just started freestyling, and all my homies in the hood. And then he brought the CD burner. I guess that was a dream that I had. He kind of pushed that to us, you know, and influence. And, you know, we kind of took it. We wasn't serious about making money off of it, but we was burning all these CDs and stuff like that. And my mom was a music enthusiast too. She had a bunch of, you know, vinyls and stuff like that. And you know, playing Diana Ross, you know, the old school stuff. That and the rap came from just freestyle. I'm listening to Tupac and stuff. I want to be like Tupac, you know what I mean, back in our era. So I started rapping like Pac and stuff like that, you know. And when I met Death Row, there was some A&Rs. Yeah, it was like, go get your tape. And, you know, we rode all the way to the house, miles, to go get the tape and bring it back, you know, to meet them and let them hear, oh, that's dope, man, sign right here. If I could speak to my younger self, I'd just say, hang in there, man. It's just gonna get better, man. Hey, man, get it together, man. No, don't never give up, buddy. Because I don't think I would change anything, you know. What I've been through, everything that I've been through is for this moment right here and this purpose that I have. And for me to be able to give or pour into somebody else or help them, you know what I mean? Without that, You know, going through what I've been through, what am I gonna say? Yeah, man, you need to, you know, I don't know nothing. I ain't been through nothing, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so that's what All right, my God don't play about me. What does that mean to me personally? You know, the scripture talks about no man can pluck me out of God's hand, only myself. You know, it talks about, me being the apple of his eye, you know. So as I follow God, you know what I mean? Or as we follow God and follow Jesus, you know, there's a covering of protection. There's a hedge of protection. And I've experienced it. That's why I'm here now, you know, because I could have been gone, you know what I'm saying? There's a hedge of protection as you be obedient and follow the Lord. You know, man, as you follow God, he loves us, you know what I mean? And he don't play about us, you know what I'm saying? God don't play about me, man. Coming out soon, man. Shout out to CEO D and Go Legit Entertainment. Music GMV as well. So what happened was I got a grant from the city to record 2 songs. It's the Music GNV Lucy's recording grant, quarterly recording grant. They said pick a producer or whatever. I picked Go Legit Entertainment and another one for another song. So then we went to the production and stuff like that, you know. I had other stuff in mind and songs that I had that I wanted to record, but CEO Deep, he presented a beat to me one time. I forgot who made the beat. Sorry, man, I'll give you props later on. So I heard the beat and I was like, he said, just vibe to the beat, you know, send me the beat. And I was like, my God, don't play about me. My God, don't play about me. When I was down in the drought. So the hook came first. And then, you know, I just started writing bars, you know, because we got to get in the studio and get this done and get it back to the city and let them know where their grant money went. It was just something in my heart when I heard that beat, you know. I just wanted to, you know, I don't have many God songs. I usually tell a story about my own story, and that was just on my heart when I heard the beat. Like he heard a choir, you know what I mean, and I heard just a chant, my God, with energy, you know. That's where that came from. The message I want people to take from my story, man, is that you can make it, you know, you can make it through anything, man, especially with the Lord Jesus Christ, man, as well as there's help out there for you, man. Whatever you're going through, you know what I mean? It could be psychological, whatever. There's always help. There's people, community, family, you know what I mean? There's always help. Sometimes we don't reach out. Like me, I had mental health issues, depression, all type of stuff. And all I had to do was reach out. I waited till I got in federal prison to reach out. You know, I could have reached out, hey, I need help on the street. Something wrong with me. Don't wait till it's too late. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Don't wait till it's too late. And you know what I'm saying out there, you know? I want to give a shout out, man, first of all, to CEO D, man, Go Legit Entertainment, Hype 100 radio station, because they always on board. Black Galaxy Entertainment, West Palm Beach, Tamarind Avenue, man. I love you guys, man, and family out there. Shout out to the whole Gainesville, man. You already know, go Gators. Shout out to the federal government, man. You know, you saved my life. God had you save my life, you know? Shout out to God. Shout out to Jesus, you know, the Son of God. You know?
My God don't play about me. My God don't play about me. Play about me. Play about me. Play about me. When I was down in the trap, my God don't play about me. My God don't play about me. It was God that pulled me. My God don't play about me. My God don't play about me. I was blind, but now I can see. My God don't play about me. My God don't play about me. And my God don't play about me. My God don't play about me. My God don't play about me. I put my trust up in God. He got the master plan. I went through struggles this hard. I'm not the same man. I grew up down in West Palm, little Afghanistan. Spend every night hearing shots, cops in the ambulance. I know for me that's not part of his plan. Being corrupted as a youngster, still scarred as a man. Not much guidance or no structure, I fell in the jam. Police came into my crib, found a gun on my bed. Here come the feds, all my homies and my enemies dead. Shaking, taking penitentiary chances, blaming God for them harsh circumstances. Ain't it funny how I landed in the palm of his hand? I'm truly humbled, I am. My God, my God.
Hey, yo, if the Harry Todd story moved y'all, man, and you want a little piece of inspiration to carry with you concerning this movement, this God Don't Play About Me movement, you can go to Go Legit Online, man, on our website. Or go on our social media page. You can find me at todd.the.truth on IG, Harry Todd on Facebook, TikTok, and all social media platforms. You can find Go Legit at Go Legit Entertainment. Make sure you check out our special edition merch. that's attached to this project, man. We greatly appreciate you. I love you out there, man. I hope you got some inspiration from this. Let's keep rocking, man. I'm gonna keep going. True First Entertainment.